It's Monday, and we have Justin Ferguson, TheBlackSommRVA. It's Mardi Gras at Get Tight Lounge, and the opening for Ugly Dumpling. Welcome to Eat It, Virginia.
Hello and welcome to Eat It, Virginia, your go-to podcast for the latest restaurant and food news. We're excited to announce you can now watch Eat It, Virginia on the CBS 6 YouTube page, WTVR.com, as well as listen to us wherever you find your favorite podcasts. My name is Scott Wise, and I'm joined, as always, by my friend, Roby Martin. Today's guest is Justin Ferguson, who you can find on Instagram at TheBlackSommRVA. But Roby, before we talk wine with Justin, I am nervous.
Uh-oh. Why?
We're on video for the first time, like legit video, for the first time in the podcast history.
I know. Can you see my gray highlights?
I mean,
I did them. I have them professionally done.
I am so self-conscious right now.
By the man upstairs.
Jesus?
Yeah.
Wow.
They're natural.
Oh, got it. I was like, I didn't realize he did that too. I mean, I'm Jewish. I didn't realize he had all these talents. That's great.
That's great, right?
Yeah. Water, wine, gray hair.
It's three things.
He's a man of many talents. What do you think of this video setup we have?
Well, before we do anything else, I do want to thank Nick, who has been in the room with us for the last hour and a half doing so much video. Nick, you got to taste the wine that Justin bought. What did you think?
It tastes good.
What did it taste like? Give me a fruit.
I'm going to say great.
I love it.
Yeah.
Nick learned a lot.
Nick learned a ton. He said it was fun. I don't know if he's going to think it's fun after the 10th one, but we'll keep going with the first one.
So as you might have figured out, we're on the CBS 6 YouTube page. The video is also on our website, WTVR.com. We're going to do little social media tidbits here and there. So hopefully this experiment works.
Also, I kind of want to know, like, what do you guys want to see? Do you want to see more wine? Do you want to see more food? And I mean, like, visually see, because we've got Nick now.
We have Nick. Thank God for Nick.
Thank God for Nick.
We have some restaurant news to dive into before we bring Justin on.
We've got a little bit, yeah.
I've got a list here, and I want to get your thoughts on what this list entails.
Well, it starts with Ripple Rays, and I feel like that's your thoughts.
That is my thoughts.
Okay.
Ripple Rays is a new Grateful Dead themed bar in Carytown, where Wheezy's once wheezed.
Yeah, I think so. And Townhouse once towned.
Sure. I have not yet been to Ripple Rays. I don't believe you have either.
No.
But the pictures that I'm seeing on social media, the first night they had a concert, the line was down the street. So you have the Jasper line going one way, the Ripple Rays line going the other way.
And yeah, we do need more live music venues. But we learned when you and I did a little menu tasting for the Mardi Gras menu over at Get Tight that it's a little tough to have live music in Richmond. And I'm hopeful that we'll get Drew, the owner, he started Fuzzy Cactus and now has moved to Get Tight Lounge, onto the podcast to talk about what makes things a little bit of a hurdle for live music in Richmond. So you can have that to look forward to.
That Mardi Gras tasting menu was pretty flavorful.
Was it flavorful?
And the drinks were pretty strong.
So you had your first absinthe.
I did. I think I probably had it in college. So the first in a long time. Roby and I shared a drink. It was kind of like Lady in the Tramp.
That's a lot like Lady in the Tramp, except a beverage that was bright green and no meatballs.
In general, Get Tight Lounge is a really fun place to hang out and also to see live music in the back there.
I gotta say, if somebody had asked me to suggest food at Get Tight, I am going to say before we were there, I probably would not have. But I met the chef.
You not have what?
Suggested it? No,
oh, okay.
No. And I'm glad we went because I think that what we were able to taste was really solid. I think the drinks were really stand up. I mean, I had an espresso martini that can be made vegan, which I think is kind of cool if you're looking for something that your vegan crowd can drink that's like one of the most popular drinks happening right now. We had red beans and rice. We had jambalaya. We had gumbo. We had a beignet that was like the cross between a Krispy Kreme donut and a beignet. So if that's your style, which I don't know whose style it's not.
I was going to say.
There
it checks all the boxes.
All the boxes. And it will go all through this month. They have some really cool live bands playing also. So, yeah, support your local music scene and your local restaurants.
And you and Drew had a pretty intense conversation about French fries, if I recall.
Yeah, he feels the same way I do. We are into the house-made French fry situation. We'll get into that too when he comes on because I am very intense about French fries, always.
I'm seeing here in my rundown, you want to talk about the best bagel in Richmond?
Dude, I can't with this. Have you had the Sunday bagel yet?
I have.
And?
It was phenomenal.
And?
I want more.
And?
They're hard to get.
Yeah.
You have to like put in like the effort to get them.
Well, if you're going to get the best bagel in Richmond, I feel like there should be effort. Now, it's different than Cupertino's. It's a little lighter, it's a little airier, it's a little fatter, right? So if you're expecting a Cupertino's bagel, this is not it.
Which is my favorite, by the way.
It will. It's
it's
out
my
near you.
It's my go-to.
Well, they've been doing bagels for like 30 years in Richmond, so it's good for it to be your favorite. I think that if you want something that's a little newer and a little lighter, this would be my choice for you. Also, they have mortadella on their bagel sandwiches. And pretty much, I mean, like that just cements it.
And right now it's just a pop-up, correct?
It is. It is a pop-up. It's at Pamplemousse, which feels like I'm just talking about a LaCroix soda, but it's which is right next to One More Taco on Robinson. And yeah, so you can do it. Follow their Instagram, which is Sunday Bagel at RVA, Sunday Bagel RVA on Instagram, and you can learn what types of bagels they have and what bagel sandwiches. Bagels go up at like 8 and sandwiches come up at 11 on Sunday.
Patrick Murtaugh is leaving or has
So
left.
still an owner, but moving away from day-to-day operations at the Hardywood Craft Brewery that you guys have known and loved. They were part of SB 604, which is what made it so we could drink in breweries in the state of Virginia, which is very cool.
Thank you, Patrick.
Yep, Patrick Murtaugh, Eric McKay, the originators of Hardywood. One of them is just moving back. He has news to share, which I am not going to share, but
Okay.
we will at some point share. But he is moving back from Hardywood. So that is a high five to Patrick. He's still an owner, so you will still see him around with a beer in his hand.
I believe Hardywood was the site of one of our first live podcasts back in 2020.
It was. We sat under a tent and talked to all of them. They're good, good eggs. Let's talk about soup dumplings again.
Okay. What can we talk about?
I know when it's opening.
Ugly Dumpling.
Yes.
When is it opening?
It's opening. So it was going to open on January 25th, but then they sent an email out to all of their employees. I'm such an insider. I mean, I
Is
just
this
know
another
about
part-time
emails.
job for you?
Yep. Insider Roby.
You slinging dumplings?
I'm stalking a soup dumpling. I'm a soup dumpling stalker. Anyway, February the 17th is the opening. So 3 days after Valentine's Day, you can get your part-time lover a soup dumpling.
Little Stevie Wonder reference. I like that.
You got it. Yeah.
So why should I go to Ugly Dumpling?
Well, because they have soup dumplings.
Okay.
Also, it's in Willow Lawn, and it's known for its soup dumplings. So if you really haven't had a soup dumpling and you're not really you don't really understand what it is, this will give you an option to taste them in a place that's been making them for quite some time.
And this is a regional chain, a national
Yes,
chain?
look at you with the food knowledge. Yeah,
I think you told me that.
I might have.
Yeah, I think so.
It
It's right here in my
happens.
notes.
Roby told me it was a regional chain.
Speaking of things that you've told me,
Yeah,
you have a new column in Style Weekly.
we do.
I saw an art rendering of you and Megan.
I'm a potato.
jealous. I'm jealous.
I'm a potato.
I just get look at the two shot up here, Nick. I just get this this plate with my name on it, just a name. You have like a whole cartoon character now.
I have a full cartoon character of me of a potato.
I'm gonna flash it up.
Yeah, yep, me and my potato. Anyway, yeah, Megan Marcognac, who she and I have both been writing about the food industry in Richmond, the state of Virginia, for 20 years. So we started when we were 3. And so now we have a column together. It's bi-weekly over at Style. You'll get snacks, support, more snacks, things to do in the Richmond food area. And we have a little travel piece at the end of it. So if you want to go somewhere else, we have some suggestions there. Yeah, come
Well,
out.
it's awesome. I'm proud of you guys.
Super
Hopefully, Megan
cool.
can come on here and we can tell stories about you.
Oh gosh, she'd love that. Are you kidding? She has some too. Whew. Yeah, maybe that's a bad idea.
I want some of your hot takes. Real
Hot
quick.
takes.
I have 2
Hit me.
questions for
All
you.
right.
There are 2 restaurants that recently opened in Richmond
I need
that
wine for this.
I have not been to yet. But you have, I think,
Mm-hmm.
based on your social media. And I want to know what you thought of them and what I can expect if I go there.
All right.
The first is Brave Captain.
I freaking love it.
Okay.
So by the guys that own Cobra Cabana and Hot for Pizza and the soon-to-be music venue, little listening room they're doing, Irby Abernathy and Josh Novicki. Irby, he was the guy from Valiant Thor. He is Valiant himself. So if you're familiar with the heavy metal band, that's Irby.
Okay.
And they have opened Brave Captain, which is like maybe a seafood themed bar, but really it's just like a cool bar. It's in the old Mojo's, one side of it. The other side is Tito's Mexican. But one side of it, think steak fries, think fat tuna sandwiches. I mean, weirdly, they have like the best Jamaican beef patties. No, it's not seafood, but they're really solid.
Jamaican beef patties.
Yep, it's like a Hot Pocket, but if it was a Hot Pocket, it was wrapped in a Cheez-It and had really nice beef in it.
Speaking my love language.
Yeah, it's
Hot Pocket wrapped in a Cheez-It.
It's so good. You'd understand when you saw it.
Okay.
Anyway, the point is it's really great. The whole place is fun. If you're interested in eating out on more of a frugally,
Yes.
this is probably your spot.
All right. I love their other places, so I'm looking forward to visiting this one as well.
Just assume this one's equally as well appropriated.
High praise from Roby. I love it. What about Susie's?
Oh gosh, you're gonna love it.
Yeah.
Yes, it's the best and I don't know enough about matzo balls or any of those things and how they're made, but
Right.
I know that making a dumpling out of something that's a cracker, it has to take a ton of talent and work. It was so good. So Jewish deli by 100% Jewish family in the old Hopcraft pizza spot right there, like kind of almost downtown. Natural wine, super bright, airy space.
Did you get a sandwich or just a soup?
Yeah, it's schnitzel.
Oh, okay.
Because who doesn't like a piece of meat pounded flat, breaded, and fried?
I love your descriptions.
I mean, I do, and they're so good.
Well, those are two restaurants that I definitely want to. Those are on my next up list.
Being that I did not grow up in a Jewish family, I had fried eggplant. Is that something that would be something you would have had?
Well, I didn't eat eggplant as a child, so no. My
Okay.
parents might have had that for sure. So in Judaism, there are kind of like two strands. Like one is it's called Sephardic and Ashkenazi. Ashkenazi is like Eastern Europe, and Sephardic is like Moroccan and more Mediterranean. I was Ashkenazi. I'm not sure what the background of the individuals that run Susie's is. So there might be not a disconnect, but just a different upbringing traditionally and culturally. So
Which would make sense from the eggplant standpoint.
There you go.
Look at that.
that's
Scott.
probably what
I
it
love
is. We got a letter to our mailbag.
Oh, yay.
And by letter, I mean an Instagram DM.
Somebody slid in.
If you want to send us a
Ooh.
mail to the mail, am I on the right camera?
I don't know. Which one's the two?
At Edith Virginia on Instagram is the best way to reach us. Salim sent you specifically a note based on your summer 2024. We did a whole podcast in summer 2024 about the James Beard Award and why Richmond restaurants might not have been honored in the past couple of years. So the question wants Roby's thoughts on Richmond restaurants once again missing out on the James Beard nominations. They were recently announced the last couple of weeks. No Richmond restaurants on the list. From what you can say at this point, which may or may not be a lot, what can you tell us?
So the semifinalists did come out, and there are only 2 Virginia restaurants on the list. And I mean, this is like a powder keg for me because I have thoughts on why Richmond wasn't on it, but I just don't know. I mean, I think that we do not promote ourselves enough as a restaurant industry / group. I think that we could see more promotion. I mean, we could nominate ourselves. We could talk about it in other places. You and I do a lot of talking about it, but there's a lot of other people that could do a lot of talking about it, right? So there's that. I think that maybe some of the individuals that were nominated, if they were nominated for anything or pushed up through the ranks, maybe there's just not a lot of tenure. We've had a lot of restaurants open in Richmond, right? Like a lot of places are recently opened that are being talked about or have chefs that have changed.
One of the things you mentioned over the summer when we talked about this after Justin Lowe's RTD article, that was kind of the impetus behind that podcast.
It absolutely was.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you were mentioning that fans of restaurants or of chefs or whatever should be nominating these places.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know if there were Richmond restaurants that were nominated, and was that number about the same as the year before? Was it more? Or did it seem like it was less? Have you have any knowledge in that regard?
I am unable to say. How about that?
Right.
That's probably the best way for me to put it is I don't know. I don't know enough to be able to elaborate on that type of thing. I will say that it is imperative that the individuals that believe in the Richmond restaurants or the Northern Virginia restaurants or the Southwestern Virginia restaurants or the Virginia Beach restaurants go
Right.
next year during the open call.
Which is around when?
January, end of December, January. It's not, like the beginning of January, end of December. Maybe, I don't even know, but it's like right in that area.
So you have 11 months to make your lists, people.
You go and nominate the people that you love. If you really enjoy a bagel place that's in Wytheville, Virginia, great. Get on the website and nominate the bagel place.
You know what I love?
What?
Our conversation with Justin Ferguson.
Oh, you're such a segue king. I love this so much. All right. Well, we should drink some wine and chat with him then.
All right, let's do it.
Scott, you are aware of my love of wine, right?
I've heard a thing or two about it.
So let me just tell you. So whenever there's a wine person that pops up in my Instagram feed, I'm like, what can this person teach me? So I immediately am like, follow. So I have been watching Justin Ferguson, who is our guest. Essentially, I don't know who sent him to me. Anyway, the point
algorithm sent him to you, probably.
Actually,
The wine algorithm.
no, people know this about me, and they'll send me local people so I can be like, what? Follow. Well, I immediately followed him, and then I chased him around like the stalker I am, and look who is on the podcast. I have Justin Ferguson.
Welcome, Justin.
Well, thanks. Glad to be here.
You are the Black Sommelier on Instagram, right?
TheBlackSommRVA.
BlackSommRVA, okay. And your intro into wine, let's start at the beginning.
The beginning. The beginning started, I think there was a show or a movie called Somm, SOMM, came out, I think 2013 or so. And what was cool was it was 5 guys who were like studying to be a master sommelier, which is one of the most difficult tests in the world. Paraphrasing a bit, you have to essentially take a blind tasting and tremendous amount of work in theory, and essentially pick that glass, smell it, taste it, and pick the dirt that it came from.
So you have to say slate, you have to say shale, you have to say red dirt, clay, yada, yada, yada.
But like where in the world it came from.
Oh, so you not only have to know that it's red dirt, but you have to know that it's red clay from Virginia.
Red clay from Virginia, or this one vintage from 2014 in Bordeaux, France, because that year they had a dry season.
My mind is blown.
Like that's
It's
the
so
level.
specific. And to lead up to be a master sommelier, there's a bunch of education, and then all of a sudden you're Robert Jones.
Yeah, one day,
Okay.
one day I'll be that guy. It's there's 2 tracks. There's the Court of Master Somm, which is CMS, and there's WSET, which is Wine Spirits Education Trust. I went the WSET way because that way is more education and focused that way. The CMS is significantly more service oriented. If you're in the industry, you work in the industry. At the time, I started and I said, I'm going to be more, let me get the book stuff and understand that concept for me in my career where it's at. And now I'm slowly making my way to the other side and be much more service and actual event focused, which has been a cool progression for the wine passion career hobby.
So Somm the movie starts the, let's call it the little spark. And then what creates the fire?
Yeah, so that part of it, there was a guy, his name was Dylan Procton. He was like the only black guy. There's not many black master somm. So seeing him in that role, sparked the idea of representation matters. Seeing someone in this thing, like, oh, that's cool, because my family, still to this day, they don't drink wine. They're not wine people. They are beer and other alcohols.
Why do you think that is?
It wasn't introduced. I think it wasn't introduced to my culture the same way other spirits were. I think different spirits have targeted different cultures different ways. Wine in at least the African American community was not something really on the radar. There was much more, you think 80s, 90s, hip hop, R&B, vodkas, liquors, that was really heavy, still are. But for me, we never had wine at all. So that thing sparked it. Oh, that's cool. So I started looking at it. And then COVID happened, right? Which was a slowdown for a lot of people.
I heard of that. COVID.
Was that 2020?
I think it was.
I think it was
Right
yesterday.
around this time almost.
Felt like yesterday.
With the water crisis, it did feel like it was yesterday. I don't know about you. I got a little pandemic panic
too
happening.
much.
Flashbacks.
Yes.
It just blends together. these
PTSD.
days. And there was a movie I was already, everyone else, we were already consuming enough wine anyway. So I said, there was this movie called Uncorked, and that was on Netflix. Similar guy, was a black guy. He was in his family. They had a barbecue business. And he said, I want to be in the wine world. his family was like, we don't know about it. Don't do it. We don't fully support you. He's like, I believe in myself. I'm going to do it. And like that night I paid for level 1. So like this is my COVID, had a young child. I'm like, I'm not doing anything anyway. Let's study.
Drink. No.
Let's drink and study. Then I could say I'm always studying, like everyone else is. So that pushed it over and took level 1.
I learned how to make bread. He got his WSET 1.
Listen, all providing value to everyone.
Bread and wine are two of my favorite things in
Those
the
are
world.
good.
Fermentation Central. Yep.
Speaking of church too, right? Bread and wine.
They are in church. So that's how it started. I saw it, and then I took level 1, then level 2, then level 3. I want to get ready for a diploma, which is like a thesis level wine course. It's like the much more in the WSET route. You have like diploma and master of wine, which is kind of the same-ish equivalent as master sommelier for the other track. So it's just more deeper connection and learning with wine every step of the way.
But all this time, this isn't your job. Like you're not trying to like learn all this wine stuff to run a bar or become a wine seller. You are a
I'm a commercial real estate broker. So
where does that intersection happen?
It's actually a really good intersection with wine. I say my brand is wine and real estate.
It's got to be a flex when you're like, here's a building. I'll take you out to eat at this nice restaurant that has this great wine list.
That's kind of what helped nudge us. You do a deal, you close a deal, like the celebratory dinner, right? You go to some fancy place, everyone gets one, like, why are you drinking this, not that? So like, the more I jumped into this business, I started being around wine more, and I wanted to be a better agent and better like collaborate and understand what my clients want. So I'm like, let me learn about it, and it just kept progressing, and here we are now. So now what's cool is that if we, I meet someone and we drink, if we celebrate at dinner, I can pick wine. And then like what everyone used to do is like, hey, here's a nice bottle of alcohol. Like, well, now I'm doing like tasting flights. So like we'll do a flight or a wine tasting with clients. So like, how do you take this thing and elevate it from here's just a fancy bottle, like here's several fancy bottles, and I know all the details about these fancy bottles. So like it's my way of like adding value outside of a transaction, and it's a cool way. I mean, during COVID, it was great when the world was shutting down and you don't want to talk to anyone about real estate. Like we're not buying, we're not selling. I don't know what's going to happen. I would call people and say, hey, listen, let's drink wine, talk about something other than real estate. We'll sit 6 feet apart and just like be humans again, like that. Because real estate is transactional, but it gets too transactional. So like, hey, Justin is here to provide wine value to me as well.
Get you drunk and sign on the line, right?
No.
Sorry.
Discuss the exact piece of dirt that exact wine came from in the region.
What's the term for that? It's
terroir.
Terroir. Oh, God, I love that.
So a WSET 4 or the Master Sommelier class will also have to learn terroir, blind tasting, and you do a little. I feel like you practice what you preach, because like if you look up your website, it says that you provide blind tasting courses. So you're almost like studying inside what you're providing your clients. How does that work?
I did during the pandemic. There was a company called Lifetime Vintage where they were doing blind tastings where you order a tasting. I think I did it with my wife for Valentine's Day. So like they send you like 4 or 6 wines. The bottles are already wrapped. So like the wines show up and numbered and you don't know what you're tasting. And then one of their somm would guide you via Zoom, and you would go through them one by one and like tasting notes and like how do you learn about wine in like a structured educational way. And then at the end you just like chug all your wine. Like, but it's like just taking that pause of like, let's go through a structured tasting like a somm or a wine person would do. And that's what brought me to the complexity of the wine. Like it went from my clients were drinking it, let me learn about it. Then like once I experienced it from like an expert, like, oh, this is so in depth and so intense, but fun. So blind tastings are a way to make everyone down to the same level. I think I saw like Wine Enthusiast actually published a good article today about it. Because if I say, let's go drink Napa Cabs, or let's go drink an area in a grape varietal, you're gonna pull from memory like I've had that before. Versus like, hey, there's 6 drinks in front of you. Let's try and taste them strategically.
So I may taste. I really and truly don't understand pencil shavings or graphite, but let's just talk about that. Yeah. My smell of pencil shavings might be different than his smell of the same. Yeah. How do you derive that down to baseline? His being Scots, if you can't see me. Like, how do you, like, the idiosyncrasies of that, how do you make them digestible?
practice. That's like there's a lot of like smelling kits and tasting kits these days. I have a thing that's like 88 smells, and there's these little vials where like you can smell it, and it's not quite the same because the idea
88.
There's 88 vials. I don't remember the name of the company, but you can smell things, and it's a little bit different because smelling something in a jar versus in a glass is like a little bit some variance there. But you try and isolate and say this smell is a textbook version of this smell. So then you were trying to sync your, olfactory nerves and your senses to get back to that place. So whether I smell it or you smell it, how do we find a common ground on what something should smell like? And this is our baseline. Because when you do blind tasting, which is great, is if I taste wine A and I'm like, this is high tannic and high acid, but you say no, but it's okay because that's your palate figuring out what you decide is high and low. So my thing is when I leave these tastings, I want you to be educated and say, well, maybe you prefer, red wines, low tannins, high acid, red fruit with subtle notes of tobacco. And you're like, I absolutely hate that. But you know what that means because we've gone through the education to say, this is how you like speak the wine jargon. And that's where people get messed up a lot.
So there's no wrong answer. Those are my favorite kinds of tests. It's whatever you like is right.
True it is.
It's your taste based on that wine, and that's what you walk away from. I like it.
That's what it should be. I think there's always when I'm pairing food, right? Again, there's level of air quotes for the listeners like textbook things, but our palates are all different. What we grew up and eating with is all different. So when I try and pair food, I try and find a common ground of what people are expecting, but someone always doesn't like something. Like, oh, that threw it off. Well, that's okay because this is a broad pairing for what's going to go best for most people, but everyone's palate's different.
I was going to ask you, is there a wine during these blind tastings that always hits out of the park, one that most of the people are going to like?
Gewürztraminer.
Gewürztraminer.
100%.
Seriously, a German white wine? People were like, I'll take that?
Yeah. Well, because it smells sweet, but it's not really sweet. So there's this crazy thing that happens in our brain. There's like a lot of people who
Say that again.
yeah, one of the few things.
There's 9,000
Yeah.
crazy things that happen in my
Is this a
brain.
therapy session all of a
Yeah,
sudden?
like here we go.
He's like, there's one. I'm
Please,
like,
let's
maybe
have some
for
wine.
you.
Let's
I'm
talk about
going to lay down. Can you talk while you do this?
Yeah.
Okay,
I
the
get-
one
I
thing
get-
that happens in his brain.
Yeah, this is, what's when you're looking at wine, there's things that are sweet and things that smell sweet, and the combination in your brain is interesting. So Gewürztraminer is like a very floral and gives off sweet smelling aromas, but it's usually on the drier side. And that's kind of the things that I like education-wise. Like something that you're in the wine store, you would never get it, you can't pronounce it, you've never heard of it. I don't know German wines, I only know like Italy, Spain, and France. So most people won't even reach for it. So like part of the thing what I like to do is bring wine to people that never had before. So like let's introduce you to some new things. And Gewürztraminer is my favorite one of like, oh, this is great. What is it? How do you say that? And like,
Right.
that's always a beg.
God bless
for,
you, what?
Yeah, always a beg for the value.
They're
of that.
also pretty reasonably priced, most
Yeah.
Gewürztraminers, which I think is a really cool thing.
They are. Not enough people know about them. So that's the joy of when I do tastings. I like to have some. If I do 6 wines, three whites and 3 reds, let's get some confidence wines of like, yes, Sauvignon Blanc is a good one, and then like Pinot Noir, like easy, you can mostly pick it out. Let's take the next level of like intensity for one of those two, and then the third one's always a fun zinger one of like it smells, or it's going to trick you because if you start pulling from memory, then you might get it wrong. Versus like actually sitting there and like I smell this in this cup now versus that time at that place where I did that thing.
So you brought us a bottle.
Yes.
Thank you for that, first of all.
Yeah.
Scott's so
Our
excited.
future guests, you don't have to bring, what camera am I on?
Yeah.
You don't have to bring future guests. You don't have to bring anything, but we appreciate it, right?
You know what? If you're going to bring, every future guest needs to bring wine. That's all I
yeah,
have to
that's
say.
it.
So you and Roby were speaking about it a little bit as I was getting things set up. I heard the name, but I didn't really hear all the details. So can you pour us a little bit and maybe we
Yeah.
can tell you what we're smelling and you can tell us how right or wrong we are?
He's poking the Napa Valley bear, which I really like with this. That's what I'm
Yeah.
going to call it.
So this is a Smith Madrone Napa Valley Spring Mountain Riesling, 100% Riesling. So part of what I like to do is when I educate people, let's try something you haven't had. There's we like routines, we like consistency. We go in the wine store and get the same things, but let's get something different. So a Riesling from California is much different, or not much different, but different enough from a Riesling from, say, Germany, right? You're looking at a warmer climate. So when you have a warmer climate, that allows grapes to get riper. And when grapes get riper, they have more fruit expression. So in Germany, if the grapes were planted in certain regions, you have a good effect where the grapes can get just sweet enough or ripe enough, but they keep that high, bright acid. But take that same grape, put it in a naturally warmer climate that has higher temperature variability, and you get something like this. So I'm excited for you guys to try it.
I think Riesling gets a bad name because people always think of it as being sweet.
Yeah,
That's what I was going to say.
That's marketing in America. You know, like
Yep.
you leave America, Riesling is always dry. But part of the marketing is introducing new cultures. Everyone likes sweet stuff. So like, how do we find a way to introduce more people? So there was this big wave of like, let's go to really sweet wines, get people who don't drink wines to start drinking wines, and that's where Riesling became like, this is a sweet thing. But I'm a big Riesling fan. It's my favorite white wine, and like I prefer it to be bone dry, nice and bright, and acidic as possible.
And what is that term in the wine world, bone dry for a Riesling? Like, it's not sect or demi-sec, but what is the actual,
it's
as it would be zero dosage for champagne.
I
but
believe
like,
it's Trocken.
there it is.
Trocken is dry. So the Germans are really great. They have a scientific method. Hand me your cup.
Oh, thank you.
Europeans in general with wine are great,
Is this
right?
the right kind of glass?
This is a perfect wine
enjoy,
glass.
To enjoy.
You're going to stick your face right into it.
Our podcast budget is zero.
This
by
is
the way,
like,
so.
listen, you just need cups. It's a Germany has really great metrics for managing and
Thank you.
Thank you.
keeping, you're welcome, wine sweetness levels. So they have several different levels and categories so that you know if it's dry, off dry, sweet, semi-sweet, and like sugar. You know?
Straight residual
Rot
sugar.
your teeth.
Yeah.
So the first thing we
Added
do is
sugar.
we smell. We get the nose. Is that right?
Oh,
Yeah, so
how about you
do we
let him walk?
swirl?
You're gonna walk him through it.
Yeah, don't you
Let's
tell
let
me.
Scott
All right,
walk
Scott,
you
tell
through
me
it.
what you know
First thing we
about
do is we swirl. Then we stick our face into it. Or no, we waft it. Do we waft it or we stick our nose into it?
You want to put your nose in there.
You stick it right in.
So step one is you let's do a structured blind tasting.
I'm
so
in.
Putting don't know what it is. Assuming these glasses were glass, right? Assuming these glasses were glasses, you would, you're gonna tilt it sideways and you want to look at the color. So the color is going to tell you, how the hue of it, if it's from maybe a colder or a warmer climate. Now, if you've had a Riesling before, this is like a golden color. This
So is it supposed to be like straw or pale straw, or like this is a Riesling supposed to be gold?
Well, so it depends on where it's from. If
Okay.
you had a German Riesling, this would look like water. It'd be like really pale straw, but this has some hue to it. So the hue means it could be either one, the region, or two, oak. But, Riesling is a grape that you don't usually put in oak. You want the grape to be expressive. So
the rich color maybe has to do with how ripe the grapes are because of the hot climate. I think you said that already. Look at me learning.
I guess you're an expert, right?
Retention.
No, I
Repeat.
just learned this from him. It's awesome.
Yeah, so like you're already looking at these things. So, okay, without smelling it, and you should do this. You get Rob Jones on here. Remember we're doing how much data can get from just looking at it before you even smell it. So once you looked at it, you forsake. Okay, maybe this was from like a warmer climate. So then your brain goes to warmer climates. Two is you want to smell. Stick your nose in the glass as far as you can. Do not be shy.
Just shove my face in there.
Yep. The goal is to smell.
Your glass, Ruby.
It's all right. I don't mind.
Don't be shy. Now, smelling techniques, everyone's different. Some like one nose is better than the other one. You have to find your better nostril. One nose is better, so
I see some people hold a nose or a nostril, not the whole
One's-
nose, but
you have to find which one's best. But put your nose in there and taste with your mouth open. There's this cool flow thing. It's weird, but open your mouth and smell. So
I can't do that.
it is.
It's like rubbing your
starts
stomach
feeling-
and patting your head.
like some of the
I
it
just
starts to
choked.
ride down your,
It's a much more circular or smelling
create
thing.
some
So glad this
saliva
was on
in the back
video.
of your throat.
And if your
because of
mouth is
that.
watering, that's like
Yeah, mine's
acidity.
watering.
Like that's acid coming through. So you've looked at it, and then that's the whole swirling and swafting thing is like this is when you're getting air into it.
Swafting. That's his swirl slash waft at
Yeah.
the same
So
time.
can we say what we think we smell? Like
Yeah. So this process before we do blind tasting, let's say 80% of a blind tasting process is before you even taste it. So you're smelling.
80%.
This is your olfactory nerves. Your brain is, what do we smell? And then you're tasting to confirm or deny, not the other way around. So like how people get better at smelling is you have to smell a bunch of stuff. You say graphite, go smell pencils. Whetstone, go.
is that a popular wine flavor?
Graphite? It's actually an old
It's in a
SNL
bunch of
joke.
things,
So I just was using it as a.
It's in there. Yeah, it's in there. It's like, how do you know what something smells like? Go smell it. So now we want to smell what we think it is. Let's smell first. Again, if you don't know what it is, just smell. And let's start with the fruit, right? You have citrus, you have tree fruits, you have
Stone fruits.
You have more riper fruits.
Okay.
What do you got?
I was not going to start with a fruit, but okay.
These cups aren't the best because you get a lot of
Yeah.
paper smell.
Can I just say what I think I smell?
Yeah.
Yeah, do it.
I smell honey, like honeysuckle.
Okay,
Honey,
good.
honeysuckle.
I love that. Any peach in there for you?
Well, now that you say it.
I know, but I don't want to do that. Like what I don't love is I often will have that problem, and I'm sure other people do. I realize this does not smell like, I don't know, let's pick a kiwi.
Yeah.
But like you'll put that out there, and I'll be like,
Oh yeah,
That's
smell
right.
that.
oh, you want to know what's in there now?
Mm-hmm.
Kiwi.
Yeah, it's the brain connection. Like, oh, of course I smell that now. And when you do these like tastings, I do them in a very fun way, like we're doing now. So like a lot of people don't know how to express and say what they smell. So like sometimes a nudge is always needed for a group to get going. But if you smell honeysuckle, great. But also if you don't smell honeysuckle, that's okay. That's the
Am I right?
That's the
What's
big
on the
thing
bottle?
about this, like people get so stuck where like you should smell and taste these, but what if I
Yeah.
don't? Am I ostracized? No, like you smell what you smell. So you guys have smelled it, and then we look at, do we smell anything else? So let's say we smell some honeysuckle. Honeysuckle is a riper fruit, right? So that kind of leans into the color potentially. So now we're going to a warmer, riper climate potentially.
It's funny. I don't drink a lot of Riesling, but when I do drink white wine, it's mostly Chardonnay, and I do feel similar Chardonnay vibes to the Riesling.
Could be, yeah.
Yeah.
So this is where I want to push back. Let's define that. Similar, define similar.
Well, it's a familiar smell to me.
Mm-hmm.
So that in my brain is telling me, when I drink white wine, I usually drink like an oaky Chardonnay.
Yeah.
And you just said you don't do Riesling and oak, so that
Maybe.
it makes me question that. But that's what my brain is telling me. Like this smells familiar to me as something.
That's good, yeah.
Could you be getting any like butter or something
Smooth,
some
like a
added
creamy
Yeah, like
smooth.
that's like because I feel like if he's associating the two and Napa tends to roll
could
that.
be like the oak, the butter, the malolactic fermentation
Yeah.
gives this like buttery richness smell to it.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
you could be on the right track, but
Wait, you said there was no wrong answers.
you could be on the right track because part of the blind tasting is setting your palate and setting your nose, so that if you do 6 wines, you're very consistent. So like if I smell, let's say I smell apricot in this, as I'm learning the education, if I smell apricot, keep it consistent. And if you don't smell it, don't take his things, right? And that's what people do is like, oh, now I smell that, and then I get stuck. So like, if this is bringing you Napa Chardonnay, let's understand what that could be. So it could be a buttery smell or richness to it. That's good data for you to collect for yourself. So that's good.
I'm glad I have this on tape.
I love it. I love it so much. I enjoy that he's like, okay, now you know that that's your Napa Riesling benchmark, right?
Yeah, we're
And
setting the bar.
we're benchmarking your Riesling benchmark. So now where you can go from that is just up. That's awesome. So what do you smell?
This one, so this is definitely getting riper fruit. So I get a little bit like a mango in here. I get
Mango.
a little bit of lemon. I'm definitely leaning on the riper fruit section. I do get like some apple. So when you go deeper, it's like, how is the fruit prepared? Which is like, is it stewed? Is it desiccated? Is it
Now
baked?
we're talking about
Like,
cooked fruit.
You can go how deep into a level of fruit you get. So
Braised, apples.
That level of detail it makes.
Are you fun to go out for a drink with, or is it like this all the time with you?
He's so fun. I'm having such a good time.
I'm the kind of guy like if you ask, I'll talk. But I like my favorite question is what's your favorite wine? I'm like first it's free wine. That's my favorite. And then like
Exactly.
like I don't.
What's date night
The
with
wine
Justin
I drank
like?
last night.
Yeah, the one. The wine
Wife's like,
glass.
let's
The
just
one I'm
drink.
gonna
Let's go.
drink
Let's go.
today.
Yeah, it's gotten so. I mean, it gets stuffy. So like, if I'm around wine people, we go there. But a lot of the time, it's like, hey,
Yeah.
I'll do my own thing, or I'm like, I try and study it for a little bit, but after that, I'm not, mansplaining. Like you should smell like no. Drink what you want. We're here to have
Right.
fun, not overcomplicated.
I love it.
And now we're at the best part, which is drinking. Now to drink, there's a trick.
Okay, the trick.
I got to get it all in there. Mouthwash that
You
baby.
do.
All right, so I saw what you did, but can you verbalize?
Well, if you only sip it and it touches just a part of your tongue and goes back, your whole mouth isn't experiencing. It was really good.
He's watering from
My mouth is
all the
literally watering.
acid. Yeah.
So, but people want to be like, okay, when you're smelling wine, people want to be polite, but like you don't smell it. Like get your nose in there. When you're drinking wine, to taste it and study it, because how do you know how much acidity it has if it doesn't touch your entire mouth? It just touches your tongue. It goes straight back. Then you can't get the full flavor and profile of it. So when you're comparing acidity levels, this is really good. When you're comparing acidity levels, how do you know if you haven't really switched in your mouth? And then with red wine, you have like the tannin, which is your teeth, which is mostly up here. If you don't let the wine touch your teeth, then how can you gauge it?
I've also heard about breathing in when you drink. Is that something that you do?
I'm likely to choke.
That's what I'm asking.
It's
I had a problem breathing with my nose. I can't imagine breathing and
I
drinking
know.
at the same
We
time.
actually really need you to hold that with 2 hands.
it's a way of like aerating it. So like it's
Yeah.
a way of aerating it.
Okay.
So it's aeration while you swish, while you decant. It helps get some more air into it. So
It's a mouth decanting.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're gonna confirm our smells now.
We're confirming our smells
I mean,
now?
that's what.
So whatever you smell,
I'm- taste is confirming the smells.
Yep. Mouth washing the wine confirms what you've smelled.
and if this is your first drink of the day, you always want to drink twice, because this is a shock to your system. I have to ask because
It is clearly my first drink of the day. Oh, this nice mic almost ended up with
It's 10 o'clock in the morning,
extreme-
folks. For those of you that are
this
watching
extremely
at home.
acidic wine. It's so
welcome
good.
to the breakfast show. So
It is the first. Is it your first drink of the day?
it is.
I don't know.
It is. So if it's your first drink, alcohol is still a shock to your palate.
I love this though, and it is really acid forward.
I taste lemon now for sure. I know you said it, and I know it's in my brain, but I
Nice.
definitely taste the citrus.
Citrus. It's
But I don't
really
have any
fruit forward.
malolactic anything. I think it's interesting that it presents a little creamier in the glass than it does on the nose. No oak either, or at least I'm not getting
No,
it.
so there's
Not at
no oak
all.
in this one. Not at all. It's just that's a warmer climate.
You say 2 sips or 3? What did he say?
He said, "Drink it."
Okay.
That's what
Drink
he
it,
said.
Virginia?
He said, "Drink
Yeah.
it, Virginia."
Now we just chug it down. So like that was your first blind tasting, right? We learned some things and then we have our own idea. So if we go and people always ask when I go out to dinner, what should I get? Or when I go to a wine store, if you like this one type of wine, this one producer, that's great. But how do you explain that producer? Because if you go to the grocery store or the wine shop, I don't have that one thing. How do you know what you want? And if the wine store or person doesn't know what your palate is, how do you explain what you like? That's what I want to do with education is let's take down the description, how you describe wine, so that I can go into any restaurant and describe my palate to that person so that they have an idea versus do you have a nice red, like let's define nice, right? Like those kind of things.
Do you get stumped anymore when you walk into a restaurant around town? Are there wines on the menu that stump you?
When you say stump, what do you like don't know or?
Sure, like totally
Like,
unfamiliar
is there an
with the,
esoteric wine list in town that you're like, oh, this is new?
I think there's a lot of places in town that they're always rotating, which is great. I've tried a bunch of wines. There's always the variances of wines and wine producers. There's the wave of new. There's like the vegan wines and there's the natural wines and the organic wines. So like wine is going through a transformation of like kind of rebranding at the moment. So there's always some new wines. There's always producers doing different things, and then with so yes, there's always something where I'm like, I've not even heard that before. So you try it, and then you do some research and try and see, what umbrella this wine may be under which company, and then you can go from there.
How do you feel about? So I don't like the word natural wine because I think it means a lot to, when it started in 2017 and 2018, there was a lot of, I'm just going to say it, crap rolling around. But I think as it's like starts to evolve, maybe we'll use low intervention, biodynamic, organic, depending on whatever like your term is, because who knows?
There's a bunch of terms, yeah.
How do you feel about that? And then on top of that, how do you feel about the 2024 regulations in Europe for the ingredients on wine? I'll start. I love it, and I think that we should have them here. But as someone who's so wine focused, what are your thoughts?
I think it's a good concept, but like you say, it's changed. I try and compare that to the organic, farm raised, grass fed beef and chicken, right? But now, that started as one thing, but now when you look at that industry, the terms grass fed is getting looser, right? The term farm raised is getting looser. All those things in the meat category, they check all these boxes, but I feel like some wine producers are trying to roll on that wave so they can put that on their bottle. But let's be much more granular and define these things. So I think it's great. It's a good potential marketing. It's bringing some new people in the wine. The same way everything had gluten free on it, that last few years. But to your point, there's people who are taking advantage of it and it's putting out just not great wines. So Europe putting restrictions on is great. I think that should be seen more around the world.
So Europe has decided that any wine that's made after 2024 will have the ingredients of everything that's in the wine, which is weird because I don't think a lot of people know that you could have up to 100 different additives in your wine.
Things.
You could have, and I mean, it's just, fish bladder. Well, no, they use it for refining, but you understand what I'm saying. Isinglass and all that craziness. In the States, we don't have that. So you could drink, it could be 2% grape. Well, obviously it can't, but you understand where I'm going. And everything else. And I'm just wondering, do you think that'll change the world of European wine?
I think it depends. It should change, right? Anytime you're required to put your cards on the table, stuff will change. I think it depends on how much or how fast it changes, because that's going to cause, if you're doing it the right way, you'll be fine, but it's the people who have been taking shortcuts are going to have issues. There was something last month about a wine producer had sugar levels. And traditionally, red wine should be dry, although the sugar is eaten by the yeast. That's how you get dry wines. But they did a test. They're like, this has high amounts of sugar in it. And again, to your point, there's no ingredients. There's no nutritional facts on the bottle, right, of wine bottles. So what are they putting in here? That's where we're moving of, let's just be more transparent and do it the right way versus making and cutting corners.
I love that.
I want to know.
Oh gosh.
You're about to close a huge deal, or you've just closed it, and you're bringing your partners out for dinner.
He just wants to know bottles and places.
Where in town are you bringing them? Where are your closer spots?
Depending on the group.
Sure.
If they are big wine drinkers, I would like to go to Jardine. It's a really cool, casual spot that has a really great wine selection. If they really want to show off and they want to eat and do the fancy wine scene, I think Bankhead is a really good place. That the team there is really good and the food's really good. It really depends. Knowing your person. Me closing, I don't know. I like to get a leek and thistle. I like to just sit there and talk
Hang
to
with
Rob.
Rob.
Sit there and talk to Rob as long as he'll let me to. And it really depends. You look at, if you go to different wine bars in Richmond, their wine selections are all very different because they're a business and all, and they have to see what their demographic and their area actually buy. So, do a wine tour and say, hey, you have this kind of wine, that kind of wine. Where's your price points at? But between Jardine and Bankheads and Leek and Thistle, those are the three places in town that you can catch me around these days.
I think they're great choices. We also can catch you though at the Underground Kitchen.
Yeah.
How do you feel about their wine selection? This is a softball launch at you.
They have the best wine selection in town. So.
How do you know?
So I am the wine director at Underground Kitchen. It is an experiential dining kitchen. So we're not open every day, which was great. The owner, Michael Sparks, is a great guy. They have a for-profit and non-for-profit side, and with me having a full day job selling real estate, they do events periodically, which was great for my schedule. So we do work with Chef Steve Glenn. He was on Hell's Kitchen. He went very far. Season 20, great chef. You know, he may have. I think you guys spoke to him. I remember him saying like 500 beef Wellingtons on that show. So he'll never do one again in his life.
He's over beef Wellington.
Yeah, he would never do one of those again. But we make, you know, what's great about that is the kitchen pays, you know, respect and creativity to LGBTQ community, but also chefs of color with flavors. We like seasoning. Chef Steve Glenn likes from the South, Creole and Southern cooking. So that's good portion sizes, but really well seasoned food. So it's fun pairing, you know, different cultures with wine, because to your question about palates, this is going to push something. There's no textbook, because the people who made the wine pairing guides traditionally were from France, and those cultures are pretty, I like to say, like, those cultures had access to high quality meats. So it's like the meat is a focus, salt and pepper, right? And then you had your extra, your sides. So what do we pair with this perfect cut of meat was the goal. But what about cultures over the years that didn't have access to meat, which is mostly minorities, where like they had to season their food extremely well because they didn't have the means to the proteins like that. So I think, you know, Indian food is another great one. Like, I could be a vegetarian or vegan Indian person, like, eater, because it's seasoning, it's fun. So how do you pair that with wine? And then throw in like a meat. So like those different things is what we do there.
So what is that day like when you're figuring out which wines to pair with Chef Steve's meals?
Yeah, we call them like, hey, what are you doing? What's the menu? Like, what's the vibe here? What's the intent of the dish? What flavor do you want to highlight the most? Because when you've got 5 or 6 flavors, you have like the meat and the sauce and a full plate of food. What are you trying to really elevate? Is it the bite of this or the taste of that? Like, that's how I like to pair wine. And you have to be in sync with the chef, because my vision for a dish can't be off from what his is. And then when you're pairing it, you either go really hard into one direction or you find the balance. So if he's doing, you know, an easy one is like fish and Sauvignon Blanc, right? Those are like a light wine that's not going to overpower, say, a halibut or a tuna, like a light fish. But if he's doing salmon, like I need a wine like a Chardonnay that's going to push back to it. So then like the next layer is like, how is the salmon or meat paired? Is it baked? Is it grilled? Is it fried? Like all these that go into the pairing so that when you bite it, it tastes better than it did before.
Are there obvious clues to you? Obviously, we know the basic, you know, red meat, red wine, fish, white wine. But is there something beyond that I could take home with me from this conversation and pretend like I'm smart about wine?
Yeah, the easiest one is
Scott's thinking date night and how to impress the
today.
date. Yeah.
Where it grows together, it goes together. That's the easiest one for you to listen.
So for example,
pizza and
Yes.
Italy. Pizza
Italy,
You know, like
all right.
traditional, you know, not
Red
the frozen
sauce,
stuff. Like,
tomatoes,
Yeah.
Italian.
wait a minute, pizza,
yeah.
Italy. Got it.
Like, you know, those like the traditional red sauce, pizza, mozzarella, like those ingredients. And the very basic is like the grapes and the meat and the vegetables all came from the same terroir, so they should go together. So when you think about where, like, whatever your culture or whatever you're eating that night, where did it originate from? Then let's find a wine that could be from the same area. That's the easiest way to kind of at least be in the right chapter.
Sure.
And then like the details of flavor is another part of it.
So, Autumn Olive Farms, Barbersville. Pork and wine from Virginia. Pork from Virginia, wine from Virginia. So, like, that's a navigable thing for you, I think.
It is, for sure. But there's lots of wine from Virginia.
Sure, yeah, but I mean, that's up to you now.
Yeah, that's
Or
chapter 2.
or phone a friend.
I gotta get that, exactly. Can I get your number, by the way?
Yeah, that's chapter 2.
So as you're walking through like wines and things, especially, I mean, I just mentioned Virginia wine. You recently did the Governor's Cup judging.
Yeah.
Now that's a hefty day.
After 3 days.
I mean, it's a lot of spitting.
It's very intense. It's, you know,
Where was the judging this year?
the judging was at Bro Vineyards. It
Okay.
was in, which is like right on the border of Virginia and West Virginia. So northwest of the state there. Beautiful, beautiful place. They hosted everyone. I think there were 20 judges. There were 626 submissions. Each team did like 200 plus wines in 3 days.
Wow.
And it was intense.
Sounds like it.
And so your team was a team of how many people?
Six people, 700. Like so, each table of people of judges, they broke out the 600 and broke it by 3 groups, and everyone cycled and tasted mostly everything, and they broke it up for 3 straight days. We're tasting 200 plus wines.
And you talked about representation mattering. Tell me about the representation in the room.
I think there was, the most of the demographic is white men. That people know that, and then there were some other like black women, Indian women, black men. There's more representation happening in Virginia, which is great. So we're starting to see more people get opportunities, and I think what's really great is that there's a lot of things in the world right now about certain buzzwords that are getting taken away, but like these are wine professionals first. Like all of us know wine, we do wine, we experience wine, we're educated in wine, and we also check another box as well. So I think it was great. I don't think it's there yet, but there's also not that many people who are known. So uplifting other wine creators and wine drinkers and wine business people is the goal. So it was good. I think Frank, who runs it, is very particular and does a really great job of bringing people out, and that's how I got there this year.
So we've got 3 days, 250 roughly wines we're tasting. I'd love to know like what you saw. Now I know you don't walk through. You don't know what the wines are. You don't know who submitted them. You know nothing except what your blind tasting is telling you, and you get a sheet that says this wine is this, and numbers, or how does that look?
The handwriting gets worse and worse the further down it goes.
There's a lot of spitting. There's big tubs.
Yeah, it's you show up. The table there's wine glasses of that. There's wine glasses of that varietal that you're tasting. So this table is Riesling. So we went back and forth with whites and reds for like 8 hours. Took a break for lunch, and you have a tasting sheet. It's a grid of like clarity, smell, aromas, structure, and then it is from 0 to 100. So the same wine regs you see on bottles everywhere else, that's what that looks like. We had to grade them. So it's,
So they're like, here's Petit Manseng, which is a pretty well-known grape in the state of Virginia. And you guys walk through Petit Manseng by all the submittals that are Petit Manseng.
Yeah.
Just your group, not another group.
So it's like there were so Petit Manseng, Cab Franc, Meritage, like those are the 3 that are very heavily, and Viognier, like those are the 4 that are really big Virginia. So I think every table had that.
Oh, okay, cool.
I think every table had that. So I know everyone, they try and keep it variable so every table can have some flexibility
Doesn't
and variability.
taste just Petit Manseng for 3 days.
Yeah, that would be, your teeth would fall out.
Oh, are you kidding? It would be like you were doing something else for 3 days. It was gripping.
So it's Petit Manseng and like Petit
Easy.
Verdot.
You're showing your naivete.
gripping tannins. And
Got it.
There's the wine jargon. It's you're smelling, you're looking, you're smelling, you're swirling, you're sipping, you're swishing, and you're spitting for everything. Because as soon as you start swallowing and like really your palate goes off, and like people are like the wine producers are sending wine, like they're paying to be judged, like they're paying with resources to be judged. So like we all take it very seriously. I didn't know what to expect when I was invited, but it's like this. It's actually extremely structured and professional.
Now, are you judging against the wines against each other, or are you judging it on a matrix in your head?
Their own category. So we're trying to. The idea of like having several different people with their own grids, their own palates, you're gonna get the averages. So if I think this wine is a 90, but you may say it's 85, and you may think it's 100, but they're all individually judged one by one.
And what was the highest grade you gave out?
I gave a 98 out to some Petit Verdots, and Viogniers are really good. So
What was the lowest grade you gave out?
I think I gave like a 75.
Ooh.
There was like I don't say there was some not great wines.
Yeah, sure.
And that's expected.
Do they send the scores, or at least some constructive criticism, back to the individuals that submitted? Should they not be?
Every review, so all 600 cards are sent to the winemakers. Like if however many, I think they had to send each place that wanted to submit sent 6 wines. So like you get all the tasting cards of everyone that reviewed your wine. So you can see all the scores, all the notes, and it just keeps transparency. Like they can add up their numbers too, so you can see what people are saying about your wines, and I think it's a great idea.
Is the table talking to each other? Or are you saying, what'd you give him? I got him a 75, you got a 76.
There's no table talk. We try and keep it that way. I mean, we're talking to each other,
Right.
but there's no real table talk. We try and not sway it. I know by like day 2, when you've had like 30 Petite Verdots, it gets a little tough. You got to take more breaks and swish, but like they like try and keep it so clean and like it's a big deal, and we want to make sure it comes off that way.
What do they serve at dinner? What bottles?
Oh, so the first day we had our own thing where we did like our own bottles, and then we went to Walsh Vineyard, which is all up right down the street, and I think everyone brought their own bottles. So there was probably like 40 bottles of wine.
A little bottle share.
It was It was an impressive bottle share from wines from all over Virginia and the world. So it was a cool thing. Like everything.
Very cool.
Was highlight there.
Sounds like a good time. And then let's see, when does that happen? March
13th.
March 13th. You can go and buy tickets.
Yeah, get your tickets. They sell out every year. There's like the pre-show. There's the walking. I say if you've been to the Virginia Wine Expo, which is this month, if you've been there, it's a great fun time. I think the Governor's Cup is definitely more targeted and it's competition. So different mindset, but the best wines in the state are highlighted there.
I have one last question before you ask yours. I just want to give our listeners and our viewers just give us a name of something they should be trying right now. Just whatever's on top of your mind. What's the first thing that comes to your mind when I say that? I know everyone's different and price points are different.
You
but what's
gotta
something
watch
that we
his
should try?
Instagram, man. He gives you so many wines.
The thing on top of my mind right now is honestly black winemakers. I started making some real interesting kind of cinematic content. So my next wine that I've been enjoying is OPP wine by
Andre. He's
Andre.
a good dude.
He's, again, representation. His stuff that came out a while ago was like pushed me to want to make content about it. So like that's one.
I see that in the stores too.
You've had it at my house.
Oh, that's where I saw
during the pandemic.
Okay, got
we
it.
had the other people's Pinot.
Yeah, OPP. Yeah, it's a great name.
Yeah.
How can I explain it?
You did. You were sitting on my porch during the pandemic. We ate it with you brought over arepas from Bodega Latina.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's a good comment. And then I mentioned that one. That one's from, I believe, Washington State. But I took a break from Virginia because I had
because you
200
did 3
wines.
days.
But,
I don't understand. Why did you do that?
I needed a pause for the local ones. But I'm a big fan of Veritas. Their sparkling wine is great. Veritas is one of the only places in the state that does traditional champagne.
Well, let's manifest that you get to work with Andre. That bro comes into Richmond quite a bit.
I'm going to tag him on my video.
I'm not joking. I actually, I could text him.
Yeah,
but like, he's a good dude.
Oh, he seems like a cool guy.
He's really good friends with
cool.
Jason Alley. He was here for a fundraiser I emceed a year ago.
That's cool, yeah.
Came and did his wine. He's a great guy. Let's make that happen.
Let's do it. Let's try.
I don't know if I can make it happen, but I know people that can make it happen. How about that?
Love it.
He's a good dude. I'm so excited. Are you kidding? I'm absolutely going to see how I can make that happen. I'd love to see you guys together. I think you guys would really get along. He's got great thoughts about wine. You have great thoughts about wine. Speaking of great thoughts about wine, you're listening to Justin Ferguson. He is the TheBlackSommRVA on Instagram.
Go give him a follow.
You can also go to his website, justin-ferguson.com.
That's me.
And see a lot of things that are going on. Or you can be in his presence at the Underground Kitchen. When's that next event?
The next event is
check the website.
February 28th. It's a Black History Month tradition or the culture, and I'll be there with Chef Steve. Really great dishes. I believe it's already sold out. We sell out in 24 hours, so like get on the mailing list. It goes quickly. There's only 20 spots, but we try to do it in a public event every month and just keep people engaged. But we are pretty busy with private events that we do very well as well.
Well, great. I'm Roby. That's Scott. This is Justin, and you're listening to Eat It Virginia.
This episode of Eat It Virginia. Eat It Virginia. Really? This episode of Eat It Virginia. Oh, God, no.